Dillian Whyte says he'll fight Deontay Wilder in Alabama if it makes him feel secure. To me, one of the things I hadn't previously considered really is the fact that Dillian Whyte's obsession with Deontay Wilder might turn out to be like Evander Holyfield's obsession with Mike Tyson. A lot of people might not realize that Holyfield was obsessed with Mike Tyson for years. Vitaly Klitschko was, to some degree, I don't want to say obsessed, but he was certainly very interested in studying Lennox Lewis for a very long time before he fought him. And most recently, Teofimo Lopez studied Vasyl Lomachenko for years and years and years, was strategizing about how to beat him for years before they actually fought. Whereas Lomachenko wasn't really thinking about Lopez. Tyson wasn't really thinking about Holyfield, you know. So sometimes the fighter who's obsessed can have some degree of advantage, either strategic advantage, mental advantage, and so on, because they're a long way out strategizing. Same way, I forgot to mention, Lennox Lewis wasn't thinking about Vitaly Klitschko, right? But the guy who has been studying and watching and obsessing about a certain fighter, when they eventually fight, sometimes he could be more ready. Mentally, tactically, he might be more ready. You see it? So will that be the case with Dillian Whyte if or when he faces Deontay Wilder? I don't know, but that's definitely something I haven't considered before. And the beef between Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder apparently stems from a girl. Doesn't it always? When two guys have got some serious beef with each other, well, not always, but a lot of the time in day-to-day life, it will stem from a girl. And yeah, apparently when they were both in the Klitschko camp, so this, I guess, was a girl they knew out in Austria. and Dillian Whyte seemingly was, he had his girl taken from him or whatever, or his side piece, whoever it was. And he hasn't forgotten about it. And he's very unhappy all these years later. And he's developed this, what can only be described as a hatred for Deontay Wilder. And I'm sure he has been studying him as a fighter in terms of what to do against him and how to beat him and so on. So Dillian Whyte said here, I think the public demand for the Wilder fight is already there, to be honest. There's a lot of demand for it already, but fighting in America doesn't hurt. And it does increase the profile and interest and a different fan base and following. It will be good to get a big fight in America in the summer. I'll fight Wilder in Alabama. If that's what is going to make him feel secure and safe enough to take the fight. If he wants, he can have the home judges, his hometown, whatever. I don't care. I'd even fight him in his own home, the kitchen, the garage, the garden, wherever. I just want to get hold of him and hurt him. I'm going to go to fight. I'm going to give it my all and be the best I can be. I always come to fight and leave it all in the ring. I'm coming for war. I'm coming to put on a destructive display. Wherever the fight is, whatever is going on, I'm cool. Now, think about it, people. Who else has Dillian Whyte pursued in this way? It is an obsession. He's been chasing Deontay Wilder for years. Wilder don't even have a belt no more. Think about all the other heavyweights out there. Heavyweights who have said stuff about Dillian Whyte, right? Deontay Wilder, for the most part, has just ignored Dillian Whyte. He has, in some instances, deliberately refused to even use Dillian Whyte's name. He's inferred that he's talking about Dillian Whyte, but without actually naming him. So Wilder really isn't that interested in Whyte. Whyte is absolutely obsessed with him, even though he's got no belt now. So this is deeper than boxing, as far as I can tell, much deeper than boxing. And that potentially could give Dillian Whyte an advantage, as long as he's not too emotionally invested in it. But as long as he's been studying him and he's more ready technically, tactically than Wilder is. Also, Both Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder are not the most well-coordinated heavyweights you've ever seen. Neither one of them has great coordination, great balance, and so on. Now, of course, they can both hit very hard. Dillian Whyte mainly with the left hook, Deontay Wilder almost exclusively with the right hand, and thrown as a straight right hand, sometimes a looping shot, but usually a straight shot with the right hand in terms of producing serious power. But Deontay Wilder needs conditions to be just right to generate that kind of power. If he's got a guy who's moving around the ring, again, because he struggles with his balance, he struggles with his coordination and judging distance, he often won't throw the right hand. When a guy's moving around, he'll hold on to it. We saw that in the Luis Ortiz rematch. We saw that most notably in the Artur Szpilka fight. He just would not let that right hand go. He was very conservative with it. Not like Szpilka is a massive puncher, right? It's just Wilder doesn't have the best coordination in the world. He doesn't have the greatest judgment of distance. He doesn't have the greatest balance. So he has to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until the opponent is stationary enough for him to be able to plant his feet and boom, throw the right hand with serious power. Yeah, a guy with better balance would be able to get more right hands off than Wilder. Yeah, but he needs conditions to be just right so he can set his feet and throw. Now, a guy like that, I have to imagine, might be even more affected by ring rust than a fighter with better balance and better coordination. A guy like Deontay, who isn't technically very gifted, who does rely a lot on his athleticism and his reflexes. And of course, there is time in there for him to land the right hand. And when you've been out the ring for a long period, timing is what often suffers. You know, getting your range, getting your timing back, this can all suffer when you've been out the ring a long time. And when you add to that he's not very technically proficient, and all the things I've already mentioned, there's the possibility there that with Dillian Whyte being a lot more active, again, doesn't have the greatest balance himself, but with him being more active, he'll be sharper come fight time if these two guys get in the ring. Let's say they get in the ring next. There's the possibility Dillian Whyte will be sharper. And given the fact that he's been obsessed with Wilder, maybe it will make the difference to the extent that Dillian Whyte can come out with a victory. But I would still pick Deontay Wilder at this stage. Maybe I'll change my mind if Wilder puts in a really horrible performance against whatever comeback opponent he chooses. But yeah, we'll see.